everyone, and welcome to the Wright Perspective. Today, we're going to recap and review a 1973 martial arts film, Enter the Dragon, starring Bruce Lee, John Saxon, and Jim Kelly. The film grossed an estimated $350 million worldwide against a budget of $850,000. And it was Lee's final completed film appearance before his death in 1973 at the age of 32. And for some, these facts would be enough to consider this movie a classic. But today, we will determine whether it is a classic from the right perspective. We'll do a recap, discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol picked especially for this discussion. But we got to start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
Hello, I am Brittany Wright, and I am the youngest.
Yes. And y'all, we picked Enter the Dragon.
I refrained. It was so hard.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. Good. Let's keep it flowing. Let's keep it flowing. I'm proud of you. Let's go.
Oh, gosh. And we picked Enter the Dragon to do a recap and review of because we just did The Last Dragon, which was a movie that was paying homage to Bruce Lee and all of the martial arts culture that he introduced and kind of perpetuated in the film industry, etc. And so, this was my first Bruce Lee film, sis. I don't know, is this your first Bruce Lee film, sis?
I think watching in totality. I
really?
feel like I've
that's interesting.
Flicked through the channels and Bruce Lee movie is on, and but I've never watched a Bruce Lee movie in totality. Yeah,
I was already interested to discuss this with you all, but now my interest level is elevated because I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So this was your first time. I think I knew it was your first time watching Enter the Dragon, but you're just saying Bruce Lee. Oh, that's interesting.
But not like martial arts. Like I had a roommate that was really into martial arts movies. But Bruce Lee, watching it. But the crazy part is, it's about him.
Yeah.
That's what I think is so dope. His essence is so strong, who he is, who he was. It's you didn't need to watch a full movie to know how pivotal of a person he is for his culture and just the culture of martial arts and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Woo, so good. Well, y'all, I love all of this context is the reason that we chose this film to do right now. And, bro, you've made it clear to us that you're a Bruce Lee fan. Did you come up with a voting symbol idea?
Oh, yeah, I do have the voting symbol we'll be using. I just didn't know if you guys wanted to talk about.
You just wanted us to share our opinion.
I didn't know if you wanted to share your opinions but yes, I do have the voting symbol we'll be using.
Well, because of our expedited preparation timeline for this particular recording, I don't have any to
We're just going to skip.
So.
Well, the symbol we'll be using is nunchucks. That is
interesting.
And I'm going to tell you why. Because the scene in the underground where Bruce Lee fights all the guards, and Jackie Chan is in that scene as well, by the way.
First piece of trivia.
Listen.
I took away what you
Listen, okay.
I'm so sorry.
I thought I was being racist. I was like, oh my God, that person looks like Jackie Chan.
Oh, no,
I was like, Brittany, that's not nice. But I was like, this person, it's and it was him. That makes me feel so much better. I was like, Brittany.
But that is the iconic scene from that movie. So whenever you see the picture or a drawing of Bruce Lee where he has his hand up and he has the nunchucks under his arm, that's where that comes from. That is that, and when I'm just when he gets those nunchucks, it gets me every time. And I've been watching this movie since I was a little kid. And I'm just saying, that is the scene that made everybody want to do nunchucks. We used to make nunchucks.
See, and when you say that though about you watching this since you were a little kid, there were ladies' boobs in this movie. Ladies' boobs and booties.
But remember back then, but Enter the Dragon was on TV all the time. So it was the TV versions I was watching.
Okay.
When I was, because it was out before. But like when we all started to watch Kung Fu movies, that is Enter the Dragon is the quintessential, like that is the one. You understand? Like that's the one that is, it brings, because there's a lot of Kung Fu movies that are all great, but like a lot of them are from, China and like place where it's like, it's dubbed. It wasn't really, and like then you had your blaxploitation ones, which are great as well. But like this one was just kind of like brought everything all together. You understand? And like that nunchuck scene was the scene. And it just makes me laugh because we would find sticks and find stuff.
And bro, am I making this up in my head? I feel like you had some like made of tape. Didn't you have some that was like, it was like tape on two ends?
What you all need to know is that our brother was extremely creative.
He was.
He still is.
I don't remember this exactly, okay? But I'm not saying you're wrong. Because there were several iterations of nunchucks that I created.
I feel like
it was funny. What's funny, nunchucks are not even, because they're not even a good weapon in terms of real martial arts. Something that's really cool. They're really cool. But I'm just saying, well, yes, I probably had at some point. So yes, nunchucks are going to be.
And sis, are you in alignment with nunchucks as our voting symbol?
I had none.
Okay. All right. Well,
I thought at first about like, how the beginning of the fights is they put their hands together and do something. I said, well, maybe we can have some hands. But that's it. That's all I had for you.
All right. So nunchucks then. All right. Well, yes, I think we're all in agreement that nunchucks are cool. And today they will help us to determine whether this movie is a classic from the right perspective. In order to be considered a classic, this movie must receive 3 nunchucks. It could receive 0, 1, 2, but it must receive 3 to be considered a classic.
That's right.
Now, is it 3 sets of nunchucks?
Yes.
3 sets of nunchucks.
Yes.
All right. Well, again, because of our expedited preparation timeline, I think this is the first podcast where I didn't do any like typing up of a recap for us. Not even an outline in the bullets. I'm just gonna take it right off the top. I'm gonna take it right off the dome, like a freestyler.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do it then, because this is.
I know you had to take some sort of note.
Oh, I took a ton of notes. I took copious notes.
Well,
then 1, 2.
So what do you mean?
No, she's counting them. Never mind.
I have 3 pages of notes, but I didn't put together like a recap.
All right,
I'll do a fun little recap.
I'll do the recap.
All right.
I'll do the recap. Okay. All right. I'll do the recap.
Bro, this is a recap.
I'm gonna keep it short. I'm gonna keep it. Listen. I know. And trust me, I've been doing self-talk and reflection all night. I'm ready for this podcast. I'm not going to dominate the conversation, and I'm not going to talk too much. And I'm going to give a very brief recap.
And for people who are new to our podcast, we definitely include spoilers. Usually our content is so old that people haven't seen it in a while. And so we do a recap that is full of spoilers so people can remember what happened. And sometimes people haven't seen the movie or television show that we're recapping and discussing. And so for that reason, we do go ahead and tell enough that you can really enjoy our discussion. So that's your spoiler alert. Take it away, bro.
All right. So this movie, Enter the Dragon, follows the story of Lee, who is the protagonist, of course, played by Bruce Lee. And basically, in his temple, he is one of the best students, or the best student. So
And a teacher.
And a teacher, and a teacher, because, and one thing I thought was interesting was how they. I'll get into that. I'll catch myself already. But
I know.
I
know.
catch
Me and
myself
Brittany were
already.
both
I catch
just like,
myself
oh boy.
I catch myself already. But anyway, he is a student and has become one of the lead teachers. And basically, the one of his leaders gives him a quest that, look, there's this guy who used to be within our temple who's now out there causing all kind of shenanigans. Okay, he's causing shenanigans, and we need to get this stopped. So Lee meets with someone from the British intelligence who tells him, look, this guy owns an island and it's completely secluded. The only time that anybody could get into this island is he has this tournament every 3 years. And he wants Lee to be one of the people in the tournament because he already got invited. So he wanted him to go ahead, accept the invite so that he could get the evidence that they need to be able to move on this crime leader, and his name is Han. So that's the premise of the movie, is that Lee is going under the context of this tournament to get evidence on Han so that other intelligence agencies can actually have the info they need to be able to shut this operation down. Also going to the island is Roper, and Roper is someone who is addicted to gambling, and I believe he's also an actor. If it doesn't escape me, and Williams, who is a martial arts expert, right? Who's also going to this. Williams is played by Jim Kelly, who's a huge influence in that whole martial arts space in terms of movies. So anyway, they all get to the island. They realize that this thing is like crazy. This guy, when they get to this island, he has everything you could possibly need: food, women, I'm sure, whatever else you could want is on this island. And Roper, being a person who's a little more, he's gambling addict, so he's worldly. He knows what's going on. He kind of recognizes what kind of man this guy is, so he's already a little wary of just the situation. And Williams, his spidey senses are up too, but I don't think as much as Roper really interacting with these types of people. He knows what type of person Han is. So we have Lee, Roper, and Williams, who are all within this tournament now. Everybody's there. And to make a long story short, or a short story short, Lee sneaks out at night, finds the evidence that they need. Also, he connects with one of the operatives that was placed there, who's undercover as a female, comfort woman, prostitute, whatever I don't know what they're.
I like comfort.
Let's go with
comfort woman. Yeah, yeah, she's
a female comfort woman.
A comfort woman. Okay, so because I don't really think. Because prostitute doesn't seem right in that, what they do.
Well, the truth is,
she was passing out grapes.
One of the reasons the various intelligence agencies were coming for Han was because they knew he was trafficking women. Right. And so these women were essentially, even though he was having them trained in martial arts and they were dressed in finery.
His daughters were the only ones trained in martial arts.
No, because even the covert operative was a part of the display of martial arts. So the
Well,
women.
do you think that them throwing those darts was really? I just thought they were good at throwing darts.
Oh, I was looking at it as a display of martial arts. Like,
because they
don't
never
come for
fought
us.
though. They never fought. The only ones who fought was his daughters.
Oh, okay. I felt he was saying, listen, these women are here for your enjoyment, but don't play.
No,
But this is for the discussion. This is
that's
for the
for
discussion.
discussion.
The general point
Anyway,
is
You
the
can
general
call them
point is that they knew
servant
he was
women.
trafficking women.
they
And so
yes,
in
yes, they
general,
knew.
the women that were there were being drugged and enslaved.
Yes,
In general.
yes, in general, yes. And so he connected with her, and she's basically like, look, you know, people disappear, women disappear from this island. So it goes even deeper than you thought. All right. So he goes out at different nights. He gets the evidence that's necessary. Through this process, we find out that Han uses this tournament as a way to recruit people into his underworld organization to be able to have tentacles out in the real world, you know, outside of this island where everything else is secluded. So all these people he's bringing, he actually wants them to be representatives of him back where they come from.
And bro, I don't know if you're going to miss it, but just think it like, are you going to mention Lee's sister?
Well, I was going to talk about
Okay.
him. Well, I mean, Jedi, if you feel like you can do it, go ahead and do it. Like,
No,
if
no,
it's
I
not
just
going,
didn't want you. I didn't want you to forget.
If it's not, but okay.
You
If I
got
miss something that you was something,
you hop in when I miss something. I was just popping in, you know.
absolutely, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I'll
But no,
pop in too. Don't forget the boat. Oh, that's not helpful. All right.
don't forget the boat.
They came over on the boat. It's okay.
But it's an island, so
Not important.
It's
I just wanted to
not.
pop in. I wanted to say nothing.
The jury will disregard.
I wanted to say nothing.
The jury will disregard Brittany's comment.
okay. I just
I
want
wanted
to
to
let
get
you all know.
on the
I just
conversation.
want to let you all know I'm working really hard to keep this short, and you are not allowing me.
Bro,
so
you're
this is not
killing
my
it
fault.
though.
This is not my fault. I just want everybody listening to know.
I just wanted to be a part of that
All
fun
right.
exchange you two were having. I felt left out.
So what I really feel like is what would be the easiest way is just to describe what happened to each of these men. So first of all, you have Williams, who was accused of being outside, but really it was Lee who was outside, but one of the guards saw Williams outside. So while they're in this island, you know, they're going to their rooms to deal with the comfort women, everything like that. Through this process is when Lee goes out to find the evidence, and he ends up interacting with some guards who he had to beat up one time real quick, and he beat him up so fast they didn't even see him, because of course he's Bruce Lee. So he had to beat up the guards so fast they didn't see him. But one of the guards saw Williams outside, who had stepped outside because Williams is Williams. Williams doesn't like people telling him what to do. So them saying he can't go outside, he's like, I'm going outside. What are you talking about? I'm Williams. So the guard saw Williams and just told Han, once Han found out that his guards got beat up, that they saw Williams outside. So Han confronts Williams, and Williams, being a man of honor, he's not going to tell on Lee. He's not, and he's ready to fight. And through cheating, Han kills Williams. So that's how Williams meets his end. Roper is, once he has some time alone with Han, Roper realizes what the real deal of this whole tournament is, okay? That basically he's looking to recruit. And once he finds out, he's actually down from the beginning, because he's like, well, look, I mean, I got gambling debts and I need somebody, so let's go. But he didn't realize that Han had killed Williams. And so when Han is about to close this deal and make Roper one of the representatives, he shows Roper Williams' body. Like, I'm just letting you know, It's
And
real
they have
around
fought
here.
together. They have fought together in
Yeah,
Vietnam.
right. They knew each other all the way from the war, and they just had a good rapport, so him seeing Roper, Roper seeing Williams, it just killed like that. It was just really, like, this is crazy. So now you can tell he's just trying to figure out how he can get out alive. Okay. And lastly, we're dealing with Lee. And Lee, he had a very interesting story, because when he was getting ready to go over to this island, one of his associates told him about what happened with his sister. And basically, Han's people were in Hong Kong, and somehow, just by being in the wrong place at the wrong time, they come across Lee's sister, and they start harassing her. And she's good; she can fight. She wasn't good at running, but she wasn't the best runner or waiter, but she was good at fighting them off. But basically, they cornered her and in a building, and she could tell that, first of all, people know about Han. So it's like, I'm gonna either get violated right here and right now, or even worse, I'll get kidnapped. And who knows what will happen to me then. And so what she decides to do is take her own life, as opposed to being subjugated to subject to whatever was going to happen after that. So Lee now has this information, and he also knows that that the person who led this chase to his sister is O'Hara, who is Han's basically one of his number one guys, or his number one guy, depending on how you're looking at the organization. But so now that Lee's on the island to find the info, he also gets the opportunity to fight O'Hara. And let me tell you, he fought O'Hara, beat him down, and was going to let him live. But O'Hara decided to break some bottles and try to attack Lee. And he said, okay, see, I was trying to be my best self, my best evolved self, but now I got to put 2 feet in your chest after I jump way high in the air. And it's his life. And that's also one of the iconic scenes where he jumps.
Kill you dead.
When he jumps on O'Hara. So that's what happened as far as the personal lives of the 3, I guess, main characters. So once Lee finds the evidence that he needs, he sends a message to the intelligence agency, who, of course, dispatches troops now that they have the evidence to the island. But the thing is they were getting there late. And now Han knows about Lee, right? Because while Lee was looking for this evidence, he got caught in the underground lair, which was the epic fight scene that we're talking about, right? So now Han knows that everything isn't copacetic with Lee. And so he now is going to have Lee fight Bolo, who Bolo is the man also in these movies. Okay, like Bolo is the big, the big guy in the movie. He's in several movies from that time. And so not only is he going to have him fight Bolo, who we've realized is an extremely capable fighter, because we've seen him kill people in these.
He folded one guy up like a paper towel.
Yeah, he folded one guy in half as an envelope, and
cracked the spine. Dead, gone.
Cracked the spine. So Roper is also on the hot seat, because at first Han was going to have Roper fight Lee, and Roper's like, I'm not doing that, okay? Because again, Roper doesn't really like Han, because Han killed his friend, and he's not going to participate in killing another. So he had Bolo come out, and instead of fighting Lee, Roper decides to fight Bolo, which this set off the whole end of the movie fight scene where not only is now Lee fighting, Roper is fighting, but they were the undercover operative was able to unlock all of the men that were in this underground lair who they've been experimented on to give it drugs and stuff. And so now they're mad and they're all flying out. And the thing I love about the movie is all the men who were in the underground lair were dressed in black, and all the people who were on Han's organization was dressed in white. So in this final scene, it was very easy to follow who is who.
Roper had on yellow, and Bruce Lee was naked. Bruce Lee was naked.
He had on
about everybody.
Yeah, Bruce Lee didn't even have on body fat. He had no.
Listen, Bruce Lee always has to take his shirt off so you can see how
he has 0% body fat. He is only muscle.
So while this fight is going on, we get to the main end fight where Bruce Lee chases Han back into the palace. And I'm gonna tell you, Lee was looking at Han like, when I get my hands on you, this is gonna be a situation, okay? And so Han tried to escape, but they end up fighting, and Han has, the way he cheats is his hand got apparently shot off. We don't see this in the movie, but he doesn't allow weapons, guns and stuff on the island because of this injury. And so his way of using that lost hand is he switches different hands. You know, he got a metal hand, he got a hand with knives, and he put the hand with the knives on it to fight Bruce Lee. And this was great because basically at the end, the climax of the movie, he lures Lee into a hall of mirrors. And in the beginning, one of Lee's masters told him that basically if you destroy the illusion, you're going to be able to see the real, the evil behind what's going on. And so he remembers that. And he just decides, because he's having problems, tracking Han in all these mirrors. So he decides to just start breaking the mirrors. And now he destroyed the illusion. So now he's able to fight Han, and he throws him, kills him. And by that time, the army has arrived. And that is the end of the movie. And I did really hard I was really working to keep that short, y'all.
That was good, bro.
I hope
Great job.
That was good, bro.
Because for me, the entire movie is an important part.
Yeah.
So
which is why I'm surprised you didn't mention the boat ride.
There was this epic boat ride when they went to the island, because come to find out, to get to islands, you need boats, right?
Well,
so
know what? All kidding aside, though, the boat ride where each of the tournament participants was coming to the island, it actually was a really important part of the movie. And it's one of those things that the movie is iconic for the fight scenes. That is what people talk about when they talk about this movie, but that boat ride scene was really a showcase of the writing and of the storytelling, because in all that was actually happening was the tournament participants being brought to Han's Island. But on that boat ride, we were able to see each of their personalities emerge. We got to see the gambler, we got to see the bully. Yeah. We learned their backstories, They even used that boat ride period as an opportunity to flashback into their lives a little bit. We got to see what happened at the beginning of their journeys to bring them to this point. So Brittany's joking about the boat ride, but it really was a critical part of the storytelling.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about that, because the storytelling I thought was phenomenal. It's very simple, and like you said, Genia, they in the boat ride that Brittany's talking about, which is actually very important. those flashbacks not only give you not only give you the background of their story, but it also gets to showcase their fighting ability so that it makes sense why they were invited to this, contest in the first place. So yeah, from a narrative perspective,
And
you're right.
the fact that Han found out about these people and there was no internet or social media during that time, you got to be a bad mamma jamma.
You got to be a bad mamma jamma. You got to be a bad mamma jamma.
Included from everywhere.
That's right.
Like, get this person from LA. Get this person
right.
New York.
I've been so random.
This person from China.
So random.
Is that?
I'm in some random island. I need this dude in LA. Right.
And he had multiple intelligent, governments who were after him. And so there was actually the intelligence agency that actually ended up contacting Lee through his temple. They were like, listen, we represent many governments.
That's right.
Okay, because this is how much of a bad mamma jamma Han was. The guy from the intelligence agency said something like, we've got all the information, but no evidence. They were like, we know exactly what's going on over there, but we have no evidence.
That's right, because he's that much.
Because he's so good.
Think
that's right.
This is something that movies showcase very well, is how you can take over people's minds. Like everyone that was in white, you all were still fighting for Han, even though you saw how quickly he would kill one of you without any type of hesitation. And as soon as there's enough to like fight back to like win against him, you were still fighting for him. And I was just like, to trap somebody's mind is to trap their body and their soul. Because I was just like, this is so interesting to me. I mean, I wanted someone to go like, y'all, Han don't like none of us. Why are we fighting right now? We just got your outfit on. It's like
that's what henchmen do.
But also
to the death. This is crazy.
But
I just thought that was so interesting.
It was fair because and the men that that Aubrey was referencing in the recap, the men who were dressed in all black that were prisoners in the basement, Han described them as, drunkards, people that had no purpose in their lives. And so all of those people that were his henchmen, they were selected, just like the tournament participants were selected. Those henchmen were targeted for their they had no connections. They were solo individuals. And listen, he was fully putting them under his control. So listen,
and that
he summed it up, bad mamma jamma.
And that is another thing that makes to me this movie so good, is because we got a snapshot of what happened in this timeline. But what we could also tell was there was a lot that happened before and a lot that happened after. And I think that the thing that I think movies try to get too much in my opinion, nowadays. It's like, we don't need every single last thing. Just give us enough. And the mystery of it is part of what makes it good. Because man, just like Brittany's talking about, like, this dude has to be, just the fact that he has this many people, it just gives you, there could probably be a whole movie of Han's rise to power.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like how he left the temple, like that could be a whole
movie
in and of itself, but they don't even go into that. It's like you see the results, so So that's what made it good. You know what I mean? You could just focus on what's happening in this movie.
Yeah.
So was it as far as the writing goes, did you all feel like it was just and we're already talking about some of the plot points, so I realized this, but I'm just curious to hear you really get into if you felt like this was just a kung fu flick or a good movie that also had great kung fu. Like how did you feel about that? Not about necessarily how you felt about the movie overall, but
The
was it a
writing,
good,
the story.
was it a movie, or was it just a kung fu movie?
Yeah. Oh, go
I
ahead,
felt
sis.
like they got fighters and martial artists and maybe taught them how to act. And so I wasn't necessarily like, oh, did they win an award? I was like, oh, they did well. You know, I wasn't, because mind you guys, I was sleepy when I was trying to watch this movie and I did not fall asleep. And I was like,
There you go.
well, all right. Y'all are doing just enough to give me what I need. And then we're getting to where we really want to be, is we want to see some people fighting. And so I did appreciate that. So I wouldn't say that the acting was like terrible, but I also wouldn't say that it was just like this stellar, top-notch,
That's right.
you know, like, oh my gosh. But I think they conveyed what they needed to convey. And did what they needed to do. So, you know, and you felt the parts, because there were parts where I was just like, ugh, you know, so they did, I felt like they did what they needed to do.
And I, you know, one of the things that I am famous for, just as Bruce Lee is famous for, why is your shirt off again, Bruce Lee?
Yeah.
You know, I will do a little bit of multitasking, not major multitasking, but like if I can just get a couple of other quick things done while
Like
I'm doing
cooking dinners, building a house,
Right.
sewing
and
clothes.
I will, yeah, I mean, because you can fold clothes and watch a movie. These things can happen at the same time. But let me tell y'all, this movie, you know, and one of the things that a movie or like television content is supposed to do is it's supposed to show, not tell. You know, and so if you find content where the characters are telling you everything that has happened, as opposed
Right.
to the content actually happening in the movie, then you know they might not have struck the right balance. This movie, it was very hard to take your eyes away from the screen for even a moment because you could miss something. And there were parts of the movie that were critical in terms of the storytelling moving
Very
along
true.
that didn't even necessarily have dialogue. That entire
Yeah.
scene of the Lee's father and sister trying to flee from Han's bad guys in the marketplace, that entire scene, it was very few words, but you needed to watch it because you needed to learn, number one, that the father tried to protect his daughter. You needed to learn, number two, that that daughter, again, for as Aubrey said, not top notch at running, kept falling, just
Yeah,
tripping.
I'm like,
But
every time I watch her run, I'm like, why did you take that little detour? Like the road
I
is right
couldn't
there. You
understand
still
why are
run.
you running around the pole? What
Why?
is happening right now?
she had not mastered emotional management quite because I feel she was just running frantically in unfortunate directions. Ma'am, you are
because that one lady closed the window.
she
I
was
said,
like,
that's so messed up. I was like, yeah,
She
close that
she
window.
was like,
You said,
but you needed to see that. You had to see the woman
that's
say,
true.
nope, I'm not helping you. You on your own, girlfriend.
And
You're
that
not
also,
coming up over here.
and
You
like
know.
you said, that also speaks to Han's power.
Totally.
How she closed that window.
Totally. You had to see that.
That's so
And then
true.
even just the look on the sister's face where she was like, listen, if I'm going to get got, I'm going to do it myself.
That's right.
Yeah.
All of that happened with no dialogue.
Man, that's so true.
And so true. Your question about the storytelling, bro, I have to say, I think they really did a good job of putting together a well-rounded story and a story that kept your eyes on the screen. One other thing I'll say really quickly about the story is, of course, I have now seen The Last Dragon before I saw Enter the Dragon. And so I was looking for similarities and ways that The Last Dragon was honoring Enter the Dragon. And I appreciated that the stories started and ended in the same way. Where at the beginning, it was Bruce Lee, and it was also the same thing for Bruce Leroy, where they are there with their martial arts mentor guru, finding out that their fighting ability has moved to a spiritual level.
That's right.
That's the first thing we find out about Bruce Lee.
That's right.
That he's got the glow. He's got the full body glow.
Got the glow.
At the top of the movie. And then at the end,
Man, I love
again,
my
it's the
sisters even
words.
more after
The
this
words of the
podcast.
guru come back at the end, and for Bruce Lee
Can
and
can
Bruce
can I can
Leroy,
I can I
to
can I please
remind them that they, that they have everything that they need, they have within.
can I please speak? Can I please speak on it real quick?
Yes,
Real quick.
do it.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image and you will break the enemy. I just love how they teed that up, Janiah.
But bro, can I honestly tell you something though? That if I were to tell you one letdown for me from the story, it was that. And listen, I love the Hall of Mirrors fight. I thought it was. I mean, obviously, it is an epic and known fight for a reason. Oh, by the way, there were over 8,000 mirrors used to set up the Hall of Mirrors. 8,000 mirrors. Isn't that interesting, Factual? All right, but
that is.
I hated that when that advice from the guru came back to Lee, that he took a literal step in breaking up the image of the bad guy. I hate that it became literal, like breaking the mirror, breaking the image. I thought that was like a shallow way to translate that guidance.
But I don't think that's what they were. I think he was showing that this ultimate lesson also has physical applications. Just like fighting. So it's like the concept he was talking about was so much bigger than him breaking his mirrors, obviously. But what he's saying, but just like the fight, because like when they were having a philosophical conversation, he was going deep, like, I mean, the fight's already happened. You know what I mean? It's so, to me, it was that. It was just a physical representation of the much bigger concept that he already has a master of. I don't think it was like supposed to be a literal, one for one. I think it was just showing
it was. Even if you know that it is a larger lesson. We know that, but I didn't love the fact that he literally was breaking his image.
What did you want to happen? Like, what would you have wanted to happen in that moment?
Well, I didn't. I'm not a kung fu movie, writer. Okay, I think I just wish that they had come up with a way for Lee to reveal the truth of Han without it being like a literal breaking of the image. Like it could have just been Lee even saying something that revealed an insecurity of Han's. Maybe it could have been Lee saying something like, only a coward would take our teachings from the Shaolin Temple, okay, and turn it into. Well, I'm throwing out a reaction to Brittany's question. What could they have done? I don't know. I just thought, why would you literally have him break the image?
To me, that's one of my favorite parts. Because
I was about to say, I thought that was, because in my head, I was like, you're not going to keep slashing me with this Wolverine hand. Something has got to happen. You running around here slashing up my face and body. Now I need some cocoa butter.
And I love how they, like, did you all ever see Karate Kid 2?
Yes.
I mean, I feel like
1,000 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I'm just saying there will be an example that we could use to talk about this thing, but I'm just saying, often in these kind of movies, you will get a way to translate that big concept into something that they can use physically.
Sure.
Just like, you know what I mean? And that's how.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It made me think of the movie Signs. I don't know if you all have ever seen that movie with Mel Gibson.
I did.
It's an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah.
I love M. Night Shyamalan. And so we need to do like all his movies. And so
I don't know about all, but
okay, it's some of them.
Sixth Sense.
Some of them. Sixth Sense.
Signs.
Sorry,
Okay,
Lady in Water wasn't really that good, but we're not gonna get into that. And so we don't do M. Night Shyamalan like that. So, but anyway, in this movie, there is a part where the main character, Mel Gibson, his wife is passing away because she gets hit by a car.
That's right.
And in her passing away, the only way that she's able to still be conscious is that the car has to stay attached to the tree that impelled her to. And so in her dying, she is just saying things. And a part of something she says is she says, swing away. Now, that is connected later on in the movie because, of course, it's a sci-fi movie. Aliens are there. And so it goes, okay? And so what happens at one point, her brother, the brother-in-law, he used to be a baseball player. He was injured. He hasn't played baseball in a while. So at any rate, the aliens have broken into their house. And there are glasses of half-drunken water all around the house because the daughter, for whatever reason, does not drink all her glasses of water. And she just leaves them there and then she'll go get some more. And so they find out that water helps to kill the aliens. And you hear Mel Gibson remembering what he heard his wife say to him, which was swing away. And he says that to the brother. Mm-hmm. And the brother gets a baseball bat and he starts to hit the glasses of water, which then get onto the alien and it kills the alien. So when I think about that, it makes me think about this movie when Bruce Lee hears his teacher like, listen, break the image. And he's like, we're in a room of mirrors and I can't see him because he's like everywhere. But in order for me to see him, I have to break the image. And it's like, okay, this is the literal application of what he's saying in this
right
to reveal him. And so it made me think of that part.
Brittany, you get it. You get it like
sometimes.
Sometimes
y'all be hating on me a lot of times.
But
sometimes I get it.
I'm just saying, if you see
you
more,
always get it in your own way.
So hard in these streets, you know. People just want to bring you down when you're elevated.
Brittany, it's just one more.
Abs in the barrel.
You need to get you another hater. That's all. You need to keep collecting them. But what I will say is that in Kung Fu movies, you will see that a lot. You will see this big message. And then at some point, they're going to translate that into something physical. So that won't be the last time. Like that's something that happens in those movies. So like if we ever watch another one at some point, you'll probably, see that again. You'll see that part again.
And y'all, and all of the fights were choreographed by Bruce Lee himself. They were all staged by him, which I thought was really interesting.
That's so cool.
Isn't that so great? And he wasn't even alive when the movie premiered. He died a week before the movie came out.
How did
this movie, which is so much a part of his legacy, he didn't get to experience the premiere. Bro, correct me if I'm wrong. I think he died. He had experienced some brain injuries, and he had swelling on the brain, and it was something that he had been dealing with and had been managed in a couple of different instances. And ultimately, that is what took him out, swelling on the brain.
Yeah, his from what I understand, there's this, mystery kind of surrounding his death. And, his son died too.
Oh.
His son, Brandon Lee, who was also a martial artist, and he was in the movie The Crow, the first, you all remember that movie? And
I do remember hearing about that. I remember like the previews for that movie.
Yeah. Anyway, he ended. That's another one we could put on the list, The Crow, at some point. But the Brandon Lee, everybody was really excited because it's Bruce Lee's son, You know what I'm saying? And he did a great job in this movie, but he ended up dying mysteriously too very young.
Aww.
Yeah, and he ended up dying. So it was just that further retroactively fueled the mystery of Bruce Lee's death because his son also.
And it
died.
was swelling on the brain, and the autopsy was saying that it was related to a reaction, an allergic reaction to a medication. Some people think like cannabis was implicated.
Yeah, that's exactly like
It's
there's a
just
lot
all
of
these swirling.
there's all these, and it's just. But just to your point though, when you see first of all, did you know that Bruce Lee created his own martial art?
You told us that, bro.
Yeah.
What was it called again?
Jeet Kune Do. So he made his own martial art, which you can see how it all translates into these moves that he gives everybody and that he choreographs. But the other thing I love about this movie, in the first scene when he's fighting, when he's sparring, you see he started grappling with his opponent and he beat him with a hold, right? Which that's uncommon in Kung Fu movies. Kung Fu movies is always, beating with a punch or a kick or, which there was plenty of that in this movie as well. But if you look at real life, like MMA, most of those fights are ended with a hold. You know what I'm saying? Like grappling. And it was just interesting that all the way back in the 70s, he actually put that in a movie, which was uncommon. But all of those scenes, I mean, everyone still gets me. Everyone who still gets me. I love all and Williams, his last fights, his last fight scene where he fought Han. I was trying to write down a quotable from the scene, but the thing is people quote every line in that scene. Like in the beginning, when he was telling them he needs to learn about defeat, he was like, I won't even notice. I'll be too busy looking good. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So suddenly, Mr. Hand, I would leave your island.
I really appreciated,
man, you come straight out of a comic book.
Yes, I appreciated the character development for all the characters, but for that Williams character in particular, the same way we got a peek into Roper's life and we saw how his obsession with gambling. We got a peek into Williams's life, and what we learned from him was that he truly was like a noble person, just out here, trying to survive. We see him.
That's right.
We get a look at the where he does his training, which was like his sensei, I don't know the term, like his guru, his master trainer was another Black man, which I loved, and we got a chance to see that. We also got a chance to see. All he was doing was walking down the street in his life, about to head to the airport so he could fly to Hong Kong, and the police accost him and start, with the racial slurs and the digging at him. And it was a chance for us to see.
I love that scene.
Yeah. He was just minding his own business, walking from his dojo to just heading to the airport.
But with that empty luggage. That luggage was empty.
Hey, I've always
you underestimate his muscles.
You
don't understand muscles.
What I've always the way I've always reconciled it is he was about to go somewhere to put something in that bag.
Yeah, I don't understand muscles.
And he didn't get a chance.
It was just very light to him.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Because I was like, ain't nothing in there.
But look,
that's why he was about to arrest him. So your bag is empty.
The way he beat those men down. But what makes me love the scene is he pulled off the cop car.
Yo, he stole the cop car. I was like, he's about to get to the airport on time. He is not getting the bus. He is not getting the bus. And that's what these men deserve.
Oh my God.
I was like, this man wasn't bothering nobody. He's just trying to get where
he was actually just walking down the street. But I love that. There are lots of ways they could have shown his context. You know, there are lots of ways to kind of give us a sense of what his life was like. And that's how they chose to do it. I also love that they could have given Roper and Williams any kind of backstory relationship. And frankly, they could have given them none. They could have just became friends
and strangers
on the island, you know. But instead, they gave them that commonness of having fought in Vietnam together. And what I appreciated about that was it was a nod to the times.
Yes.
You know, whenever a movie includes a little nugget that is like, in case you didn't know, here's when this story is set. You know, you can't forget. You can't fight it. I appreciate that little reality check. And you may remember from The Last Dragon, they had random use of breakdancing in the movie. And for me, that was one of those little things that was like, in case you didn't know, here's the timeline for this movie. So I like that Vietnam backstory for Williams and Roper.
And I think it was bringing some camaraderie to, because listen, it's an American movie. Racism, it's synonymous. And so I think that part of them doing that as well was to show that we all got issues. Yeah. And we all have things that we're facing. Roper, now while some of his is just brought on himself, he still had a conscience. But I will say, whenever he had all those bags with him, I said, you had $63.73 in your account. And I know
he had to buy the stuff in the bags.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
I was like, I know inflation is real, but I was like, per today, he paid like $800 to get all his stuff under the plane. I was like, he has like 50 bags. I was like, what's happening?
Totally. How long are you staying on Hans Island? That's my question.
You're never going back. Got it. Got it.
He was homeless at that point. He was carrying everything he had.
He brought everything.
He's carrying everything he had. He ain't had no place to put it.
He didn't have nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
But I think about that because they had the same story. It was like,
and it also gives even further backstory to why they're so tough. You know, you make it back from Vietnam, you're not average. You know, you've seen some things, and like,
isn't that the only war they didn't get a welcome back? It was something along those lines, like they say to individuals who come back from Vietnam, like to say welcome back to them because they didn't get that. So even think about just the psychological part of it, like these are two men that have gone through something very traumatic at the hands of a government that didn't even welcome them back. So that is, you know,
it speaks to their psyche. Why you know, I'm poor. Some pour out their hearts in combat or gambling or whatever, because I mean, but yeah, that could be a movie. You know, like that could be. I'm gonna tell you, and this is the last thing. I have one more thing I want to say before my last thing. That scene.
This is my fifth to last thing. What I want to say.
I didn't say that before. I'm saying I have a last thing I want to say,
and then it's one more thing.
But I wanted to squeeze one thing in before that. That's all. I just wanted to say that scene in the basement or whatever, with the lair,
the dungeon,
that is everybody's favorite scene, where Bruce Lee uses all those different weapons, and when he breaks out the nunchucks.
Oh wait, before you get off of that
every time
to go to your
we ain't gotta get off that scene.
Before you go to your
we ain't gotta get off.
I wanted to say, when he brings that snake in and those men break the window to get away from the snake, and to see Bruce Lee's face, like he just looks so annoyed, like, y'all are supposed to be the tough people protecting layers, sending messages. Like, you could just see his face, like, all I had to do was this snake, I slapped it in the back and then put it inside here. Like, I caught this snake. I did all these. I'm walking around with a snake in my bag. Like, I'm just, and then y'all are supposed to be the tough guys.
Yeah,
And then
he's
all I
like,
had to
he's
do
just
was
like,
put it in there.
they're so predictable. They're so
It's
predictably
his face.
ill-equipped.
Like, are you serious right now? It was just so funny to me that they,
No, you're
excuse me, broke that window to get away from this thing. Now, would I have done that? Yes. I'm not trained. I would have absolutely been trying to get from this snake.
I
But
would have
that's
just
me.
fainted. I would
I'm
have just
not a-
fainted and the snake would have grabbed me.
Something.
I'm not
But
a
I'm
fighter.
just like,
I'm not a
and then
fighter.
it made
I'm a
me
lover.
also laugh when he's in there sending the message and the snake comes over and he just steps on it. And I was
Right.
just like,
well, Brittany.
this is amazing. I
He's
love
Bruce
this.
Lee.
He's Bruce Lee.
I mean,
That's the only way to explain it. He just
yeah,
Well,
that was it.
I don't want to undercut your last point, bro, but I did want to talk about the music.
oh no, I'm saying I only have 1 point. One
Yeah.
point. But yeah, the music and the styling.
Totally. I will say my true reaction to the soundtrack, and let me just say, I enjoyed it greatly. Okay. And again, there were so many parts of the movie that didn't have dialogue. You know, sometimes you had Bruce Lee making fighting noises,
Yes.
you know. But there were parts where there was just, you're just watching and the music is all you've got, you know, in terms of the audio and then some punching and bones cracking, you know. But I thought of that music as honestly blaxploitation movie music. That's what I
saw my
heard.
text message. I said, "Are they
Well,
using
you know,
fast
Jim.
music?"
You know,
Totally.
Jim Kelly was big in that circuit.
Mm.
He's a real
Mhm.
martial artist too,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
or he was.
Well,
he was.
I will just say, like, it just starts to give me, there are aspects of that, of what these Bruce Lee movies introduced into movie culture that I appreciate and respect, that I don't even necessarily tag
Right.
specifically to him, you know. So that, again, just in terms of like the way the music was, I don't know. Was that something that came with Bruce Lee? Was it already out
No,
there?
it wasn't, because Shaft came out in 1971. It was not.
No,
Oh,
but what I think,
there
I
you
looked that
go.
up.
what I felt was like Bruce Lee wanted to bring in all of these aspects.
Yes.
Mm.
You know, like I felt like he wanted to bring all of these, and
And
just the
that's probably
fact
why he
that,
died.
and just the fact that he got Jim Kelly, one of the, everybody loves that scene. Jim Kelly has an iconic scene in Kung Fu movie history. And the great thing is,
He was so good.
he didn't even lose for real. It wasn't about, he didn't lose based on skill.
He
Dude
lost 'cause he
cheated.
cheated.
You know, and so it was like, even in him losing, he didn't lose like, oh, he got beat up. It's like, I mean, the dude had a metal hand. What are you?
Totally.
And it was
totally.
still honorable because he never, like you said earlier, he never told that it was.
That's
being
right.
put out.
That's
Mhm.
right. Even when he was about to die, he just went out like, yo.
I guess I
it's
gotta
the
go.
end.
So I'm just saying, I think that probably, and I don't know, but I'm saying, I feel like Brittany said, Bruce Lee was kind of like, look, we want to bring this part of this and this part of that, and we're just going to make the ultimate hodgepodge, you know what I'm saying, Kung Fu movie.
Yeah.
We're going to make.
But even the lack of music, because the fight scene between Han and Bruce Lee didn't have any music. I was waiting for music to start, and I was like, I see what they're doing here. They need you to focus. They need you to focus on how he's about to change this hand out 17 times from a
Well,
bear
how
claw to
filthy.
Wolverine.
My
He's about to
favorite-
change it out.
My favorite fight scenes are when they do that. Like the Bourne Ultimatum, which we should do the Bourne
I
trilogy. or
love
something.
those movies.
Janiyah, they are my favorite action
Well, we've
movies,
already given the right perspective.
period. But I would still love the rule. But anyway, in the Bourne Ultimatum, which is the third one, where he's running across those rooftops, and like the scene is building up, the music is building up, and he's running because he's trying to save his chick. He's running, and like all the way to the point that he's jumping over the glass, you know, that they have on the roofs he's wrapping his hands in random claw so he can touch this glass. And at the end, he jumps through that window. And then you're like, you are all the way pumped up. And then as soon as he jumps through that glass window to fight this dude, the music stops. And it's just like all you hear is just that fight. And it's just like Brittany said, it's like, no, y'all need to focus on this one. Because this is about to be serious right here. So we don't want no distractions. No. And yes, Brittany, that does make a fight, especially a climax scene, it makes it even more just, potent the way and more iconic. So yeah, that is a great point.
And I've mentioned on every podcast, how I struggle sometimes with like celebrating, like when I find myself in a place in a movie where I'm thinking, kill him, I always feel a little bad about it. I'm always like, what kind of thing am I, what am I allowing into my spirit right now that I'm like rooting for death?
Some people don't have a redemption story. Han is not going to come back as like, this really nice person. Well, it's time for his storyline to end. His bloodline done.
For this movie, this is a nod to the writing. It's a nod to the acting. It's a nod to all of it, really, to the music. I didn't get distracted by my own feelings about violence. I didn't. So I don't know what that means. Is it that the movie drew me in so much that I wasn't paying attention to that? Is it that they were really artful in the way that they showed the death? There were lots of times where we heard a spine crack, but we didn't see it. We were so bought in to, maybe it was that we were so bought into Lee's fight, because he wasn't just there on behalf of these intelligence agencies that wanted to take Han down. He was also there to avenge his sister, So maybe it was all of that. Maybe I got, emotionally wrapped up in what Lee was pursuing. But it was after the movie was over that I was like, oh my gosh, I just watched a fighting movie and I didn't feel that normal kind of internal twinge of, why am I watching a fighting movie that I always consistently feel?
Man, now I'm curious to talk to you about the Bourne trilogy. Like, we're not going to do it, but now I'm curious.
We got to. You know what? We've got to review those movies.
Put it on the list. Put it on the list. Brittany,
I'm all about a good death. I've seen one of them because every time you all are talking about running across the top of buildings, I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah.
But to remember that whole movie, because who is it? Matt Damon?
Yep.
That is, yeah. I remember them very vaguely, but I don't think I've seen all of them.
Well, that gives us even better excuse to do them at some point. That's even better.
But yeah, I'm a person that get wraps up in the bad guy. When the bad guy dies, like if they don't have like a redemptive quality to me, the bad guy, if you're dead, I'm okay with it. I'm like, oh no.
See, and I like a bad guy where it's complicated, where it's like you kind of understand to some level how they became corrupted.
Yeah.
And that was actually, that's a critique I have of Han to some degree. I mean, we were able to put the pieces together that he was just a greedy person, but they never answered the question about why he turned his back on the teachings of the Shaolin Temple. He didn't, we just knew he was a greedy, evil guy, but they missed out on the opportunity for us to know, his layers,
But I think sometimes people don't have layers.
It's true.
I think sometimes people, the layer is you.
What they say
you are bad.
What they say in Batman, some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yes. Well, you know what? If only, and again, this was like whenever there was a hand, this after we're starting to discover how much he uses his missing hand as a way to, engage in trickery from a fighting perspective. He is showing Roper a part of his museum, and in his museum we see a skeleton of a hand. Yeah. And Roper says, "What is that?" And Han says, he says something like, "It's a souvenir."
Yeah. And I was like, "That's gross."
it was super gross. But I also thought that could have been an opportunity for him to just say a little line of, it's a little reminder that, you know, you should never. This would have been good if he said, it's a reminder that fighting never deserves honor, or just something for us to kind of show a moment where he became bitter. When did he turn? What did the Shaolin Temple do wrong by him? How did they do wrong by him? You know,
so the Shaolin Temple didn't do nothing wrong.
Yeah,
he was bad as a little
kid.
Something had to happen.
He was one of the siblings. He was a bad little kid. His mama didn't whoop him enough. He was around here probably breaking all her pots. And she was like, you know what? He grew up to be a bad teenager. And she was like, get out my house. And then he went to the temple. That was a last ditch effort. It didn't go well. And now he was just a bad adult.
He probably got kicked out of the temple, honestly.
Look,
exactly.
The last thing I want to say, I don't want to see the movie Brittany just outlined, but if
I want to see it
bad.
With the pot breaking, it would be called Pot Breaking Dragons.
Exactly.
But the dragon breaks the pot. But what I would like to see,
Han is not the dragon.
This is what I would like to see.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
This is what I would like to see. I would like to see, and I know this is kind of sacrilegious, but if there was somebody who was worthy, I would like to see a remake of Into the Dragon, shot for shot. If there was somebody who was worthy, which I don't know nobody right now, I can't name somebody who would be on that level of Bruce Lee. But what I'm saying is if there was, I would like to see a shot for shot where they could really do those fight scenes with like 2020, shooting. It's because that's the one thing. Because sometimes the way the camera is, you can't really see what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, so, and I would like to see that done, but I would like it to happen after 2 prequels. And the two prequels would be one showing Roper and Williams in Vietnam. I would like to see that. And then I would like to see a movie of how Han with Janai, I think like Brittany, he was just bad. But I would like to see that play out in a movie and then have the culmination be that, Enter the Dragon remake. Like, I think that would be dope. That would be a dope 3 movies if it was done correctly.
Yeah.
If it was done correctly.
Oh,
but yeah, I'm done. That's all I got to say.
On the right perspective, if somebody does it after this,
you owe us money. You owe us
Give us our money.
Give us our monies. We do sometimes put out some really golden ideas right now. We just giving them away.
We just giving them away.
But bro, I'm happy you saved that thought for last, because that's a good nugget. I mean, and I will say for me as a person who is, I'm now intrigued by this movie genre. I'm looking forward to seeing how these stories are told. So y'all, I think we're ready to vote.
Let's do it.
Are all hearts and minds clear? Take it away, bro.
Well, obviously, it gets my nunchuck. So this movie, it still gets me as excited as when I was a little boy, which is interesting. It'll always be one of my favorites. So it definitely gets my nunchucks.
Yeah. Okay, so for our audience,
I should have made some nunchucks.
For our audio participants, I really strongly encourage you to pull up the video on YouTube for this podcast, so you can see Aubrey's top-notch martial arts pose that he just did. Everyone needs to see it. And I will.
It could be the screenshot. You could crop me and use me as a screenshot for the YouTube.
Our thumbnail.
Yeah.
Okay. I really am going to try to find that thumbnail. I really am. Well, this movie gets my nunchucks, and it does because he did it again. He's doing it again.
I did it again to hold it for you for a while.
Just in case, so it'll be easier to find.
So it'll be easier for you to find.
I feel like a little bit of that was Spider-Man, just a little.
No, it was all Bruce Lee, 100%.
It gets my nunchucks because of this, because of what it has done to my brother. And but also, like I said, the fact that there were two things that happened for me with this movie that don't usually happen. I could not do any level of multitasking. The movie challenged me to keep my eyes on the screen, and I didn't mind. The second thing was, for some reason, I didn't feel, little pangs of guilt in my soul for watching a movie that was, a fighting movie that was about violence. Obviously it was about something much larger, but violence was the tool that was used for the lesson. And I didn't feel that pang, even right now as I'm talking about it. I just didn't feel it. And so that's something very special. And so for those reasons, this movie does get my nunchucks.
Well, this movie.
Brittany, can I just say that your locks are so perfectly draped? It looks like you draped each one individually. But go ahead. My bad.
Maybe she's born with it.
Maybe it's Maybelline. Kyle, go and take me away.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to happen. So this movie does get my nunchucks. And I think it gets my nunchucks because I feel like I could see what Bruce Lee was trying to convey in terms of just this art form and really teaching people that it is mind over matter. Like it's in your mind and you can reach that place, but it's not a place where you just get there overnight. It's trial and error. Because even when you saw the young man that he was training, he had to teach him several lessons and he learned so many in that moment. And I think oftentimes we can learn many lessons. The question is, what are we going to do with them when we learn those lessons? So I appreciate just what the movie meant in its context and also just what it was doing on a larger picture. I think our conversation helped me to feel a bit better about like William's death in the movie, because my first reaction was like, why the black man gotta die? That was my first reaction. But then as we talked about it, I was like, but that was something that I was thinking about even before our conversation, was that, well, he didn't tell on them, so there were things that I still appreciate about how it was done. And then even just watching Bruce Lee and Lee and Roper fight together towards the end and just have this common bond of like, this man is evil. And so I appreciate that part as well, just showing camaraderie when we really, really need it. So anyway, with that,
and I'm gonna tell you, the thing is that Roper made it to the end of the movie, right? But nobody talks about Roper when it comes to Enter the Dragon. When it comes to Enter the Dragon, they talk about Bruce Lee and you talk about Jim Kelly.
So, and listen, that's something to be said, right?
I'm just saying. Like, that's because, first of all, you want a good death scene if you're an actor, right? You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, if you ask anybody about Enter the Dragon, that's the scenes they talk about is Williams and versus Han, and they don't even talk about Bruce Lee versus Han. They talk about Williams versus Han, and they talk about Bruce Lee versus everybody.
Right. Beating up everyone else
versus evil.
So it definitely gets my my nunchucks.
Whoa, y'all. I think this is only our second martial arts movie because
Really?
I think.
Well, no, yeah. I guess we were watching
because The Last Dragon was our first martial arts movie, I think, and I think this is our second martial arts movie. I could be mistaken, but in two seasons of Wright Perspective, this is our second martial arts movie, and so far they both have been considered classics from the Wright Perspective. There you have it, folks. Enter the Dragon is a classic. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, bro and sis. I love doing this with y'all. So much fun. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Love y'all.